On September 13, 1848, a 25-year-old railroad foreman named Phineas Gage had a 3.5-foot iron rod blasted straight through his skull. He didn't just survive it, he was talking within minutes. But the people who knew him best said something else didn't survive that day: the man himself. This is the true story that accidentally launched modern brain science. Gage was well-liked, capable, and considered one of the most efficient foremen his railroad company employed. His job that day was routine but dangerous, drilling holes into rock, filling them with gunpowder, then packing the charge down tight using a smooth iron tamping rod over a yard long and weighing 13 pounds. Investigators believe the rod scraped rock and threw a spark. The gunpowder detonated early, and the rod itself became a projectile, entering under his left cheekbone, tearing behind his eye, and exiting through the top of his skull, landing some 25 feet away, covered in blood and brain matter. Gage was thrown backward, convulsed briefly, and then, according to witnesses, sat up and spoke. Within minutes, Gage was talking normally to the men around him. He was carried by cart to a nearby hotel, and later that day, the treating physician, Dr. John Martin Harlow, described finding an opening in the skull he could fit his finger into, with the brain visibly pulsing beneath. By any expectation of the era, Gage should have died within hours. Instead, aside from a serious infection that nearly killed him weeks later, he physically recovered. His memory was intact, his speech was unaffected, his body worked exactly as it had before. For a brain injury this catastrophic, the physical outcome was close to a miracle. But within weeks, the people who'd known Gage for years started saying something that had nothing to do with his body at all. Before the accident, colleagues described Gage as responsible, mild-mannered, and a sharp planner who reliably followed through on decisions. Dr. Harlow's own notes, written afterward, described a strikingly different man: fitful, impulsive, prone to sudden profanity that had never been his habit, and seemingly unable to stick with a plan for more than a few minutes before abandoning it for another. His employer, who had considered him their most efficient foreman, refused to give him his job back. Friends who'd known him for years reportedly said he was simply no longer Gage. His body had survived completely intact, while something in his character clearly had not. For decades, scientists believed different mental functions, memory, movement, personality, were distributed evenly throughout the brain, not tied to specific locations. Gage's case became one of the first pieces of evidence that this was wrong. Modern reconstructions using his preserved skull, held today at Harvard's Warren Anatomical Museum, suggest the rod destroyed a significant portion of his frontal lobes, the region now understood to govern impulse control, planning, and social judgment, while leaving areas responsible for movement, speech, and memory almost entirely untouched. That's precisely why Gage could walk, talk, and remember his own life perfectly, while simultaneously losing the very thing that let him plan ahead and manage his own impulses. His body was fine. The part of his brain that made careful, responsible decisions simply wasn't there anymore. Here's the detail most retellings of this story leave out entirely. Gage's dramatic personality change wasn't necessarily permanent. Records suggest that over the following few years, his behavior gradually settled. By 1852, 4 years after the accident, Gage was working as a long-haul stagecoach driver in Chile, a demanding job requiring exactly the kind of sustained planning and impulse control his injury had supposedly destroyed. This detail matters enormously. It suggests Gage's brain didn't just survive the injury. Parts of it appear to have adapted afterward, rerouting some lost function through other regions over time. Gage died in 1860 from a seizure related to his old injury, but the popular version of his story, a man permanently ruined by one accident, misses this quieter, more remarkable second act. Phineas Gage didn't just survive an impossible injury. His case became the moment science first proved that personality itself lives in a physical place inside the brain, not somewhere abstract and untouchable. But the part of his story that deserves more attention isn't the accident, or even the stranger he briefly became. It's that 4 years later, driving a stagecoach through Chile, some version of the old Gage appears to have found his way back.